Here we are, still in lockdown. Another edition of Storm Chats. Ryan, I see you've moved rooms. Looks like you're in a bedroom there.
Well, yeah, 5 o'clock. It's dinner time downstairs, so I got kicked out of the kitchen.
You got kicked out.
Yeah.
Right. And special guest for this week is former Storm captain Trevor Johnson. Trevor, how are you?
I'm good, guys. First things first. Did you guys buy the extra minutes on this thing? Do we have the pro level or?
Oh, this is full pro.
Is it shut off after 45 minutes, or we get to go longer?
No, we're all good. We're all good.
Okay,
Stock just went down though, eh?
Yeah.
So, Trevor, whereabouts are you at the moment in this crazy world that we're living in?
Yeah, I'm in Geneva, Switzerland at the moment. Pretty good place to be locked down. It's very calm here, and as you know, the Swiss are very they keep things in line. They don't really go outside the line, so very disciplined.
We were just speaking off camera there. That's obviously you probably were planning to be there for this time of year, with the World Championships going on. Bit of a disappointment. How has that gone down over there? They must be really gutted that that's been cancelled.
I think it's a huge blow for them, because I mean, and then we were actually talking about it yesterday. Like, do they? I don't know, Finn, or maybe you know this. Do they get the World Championships next year? Like, does it just roll over?
I don't think so. I think it moves to like Belarus or wherever it was going.
Yeah, because they're building. It's like the Olympics, right? They get ready for it for a long time, but it's a shame. It really is a shame.
I believe it's basically rolling on, but I think there's considerations. I mean, because it gets awarded so many years in advance, but I think they are considering perhaps, giving it to Switzerland when they can.
Yeah. So I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works with the rankings. I mean, it's not a great thing, but it could be worse. There's worse problems in the world. They'll figure it out. But it's good for GB, because I guess it gives them
1 more year,
2 years to stay up, right? They don't even have to play.
2 years in a row they stayed up. We've stayed up now.
Yeah.
We'll come to all the international hockey later on, obviously, because with your time with Italy as well, I'll be very interested to get your take on that. So, Johnny, let's track back to the beginning of your career. So your junior hockey was in the WHL with Kootenay Ice. You're 3 years there. Then you took a move mid-season to Seattle. What was going on there? Why did you move teams? And tell us a little bit about your junior career.
Yeah, so we could kind of back up a little bit more, because I started in the BC Junior Hockey League as a 15-year-old, and then I was drafted by the Edmonton Ice and went there, and then the Edmonton Ice actually changed to the Kootenay Ice, which is in Cranbrook. So we won my second year. We actually won the league, went to Memorial Cup my second year, which was my draft year, and it was great. I mean, we had a really good thing going, and then I remember my fourth year that I was there, we had injuries, and I remember Jarrett Stoll put a knife. He was trying to split two steaks in his kitchen, frozen steaks. He was probably our best player. We were both 19-year-olds, and split a steak, put it right through his hand, and obviously that was a big issue. We had a bunch of injuries, and it was at the trade deadline, and I got traded for a kid by the name of Gerard DeCare, and he was a really good D-man from Seattle. So we weren't doing very good when I got traded. So they still call me to this day the best trade in Kootenay Ice history, because they actually went on to win the Memorial. So we faced them in the second round, and they swept.
Oh, this ain't gonna work.
Played Kootenay, so I had the redemption, and they kicked our ass. They were so good.
The Kootenay Ice. I mean, that's quite a storied franchise in Canadian hockey. I believe they got rid of the team though now, haven't they?
The last couple of years. I think was it last year. I don't think they played last season. They're in Junior A now. Junior A team there now.
They're Junior A. Now they moved to Winnipeg. So the Ice have moved to Winnipeg.
Just you mentioned it there about your draft year. I mean, what was your aims and ambitions at that point? Did you hope to get drafted? Did you want a pro career out of hockey? Had you realized at that point?
Yeah, I think I realized that there was, what I didn't realize is that I probably should have went to college. It was probably the better route for me. But when and Finner can tell you this too, like when you're young and in Canada, the only really cool thing is to play in the Western Hockey League. And it was like a measure of manhood at the time. I really didn't know a lot about, American universities or colleges because I was just
I always told guys that like around our age, because I think you're only a couple years younger than I am. I said the guys that went to college in our era were always the ones that were never going to make like the Western League. Were never on, and then they just kind of went to junior A and fell into college because it didn't have the stigma in Canada, especially Western Canada, as it does now. Like now, these kids, like from the time they're 10, they're like, "Hey, I want to go play at University of Michigan, or I want to play for the Lethbridge Hurricanes." The parents are so much more educated. Where before it was literally like like the bottom end of our teams, like those kids that I played with went to college because they didn't get drafted in the Western draft. Like they weren't even in the picture, but they were still good hockey players, went into junior A hockey and then got a scholarship.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just there's a better scouting network nowadays that kids are willing to take that chance and go to university? Could you see a lot of them come straight out of school to sign in undrafted for NHL sides?
It's just more, there's just more general knowledge, social media, it's everywhere now. Like when we were younger, like we didn't have it. I think I still remember seeing my name on the computer for the first time. I thought it was the coolest thing ever,
Yeah, you didn't know anything about it.
No clue. But it's definitely a great route to go, especially for guys that develop later.
Well, and I was small too. Finner, we weren't getting dizzy at our height, and that was a time where big defensemen were needed. And I was, more of an edgy, offensive defenseman, and it just didn't work. Like it was just, I couldn't do everything, and it just didn't work at that time.
That was one of my questions for you, actually. I may as well throw it in now. Do you think perhaps you were like around at perhaps the wrong era, and you might have had a better chance if you were around this era?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I guess my history, I had 50 plus points 3 years in a row in the Western League. I mean, you do that now as a D-man, it's a different story for sure. And that's when the Western League was tough. And I think what a lot of fans didn't really realize about me in my earlier years. I mean, I fought, and Finner, this, it's like in the dub, you have to fight. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. I fought Bugard. I squared off with Bugard, Tutu, Brad Voth. I mean, some of the guys I fought were really heavyweights. And it was just stupid. Like it was just, I had no business doing it, but I had the, I guess the balls to do it, and I did it. And I thought that was going to get me drafted at the time, or that was going to set me apart, but it just didn't matter. And then that's why towards the end of my career, like I was like, forget this. Like my head is not good enough to do this.
No, it was one of the things I noticed going through your stats and stuff. I would say 123 penalty minutes in 56 games. When you at Tri-City, I think that was your last year in the WHL. Was there anything behind that, or was that just like you said there, you needed to perhaps, try to make a mark and try to get noticed?
Yeah, I think I was 20 then too, and probably thought I was probably pissed off and thought I was, should have been in the NHL or something. I just had a chip on my shoulder. But I played with an edge, and I played a lot with my stick. And it just, that's just the way it was. I think I was just kind of a shit disturber out there. Can't say that, but it's just the way it was.
And then after WHL, you spent a couple of years in the ECHL, a handful of games in the AHL, and then you made what must have been a huge decision for you. You took the step and came across to Italy. I mean, what was your thinking then?
Well, I've always had my Italian passport since I was 13 years old. And I remember when my mom...
How did Trevor Johnson get the Italian passport?
That's a good question. So my mom, she's Italian, but my nonna and my nono are both obviously Italian. My father's Icelandic heritage, right? My parents were both born in Canada, but my grandparents are obviously, from Iceland and Calabria, which is like south of Italy,
Okay.
So, and where I'm from, I think, at a point in time, there's 50% of the people that are from Trail are Italian. So a huge Italian community. And my mom was actually, she was the president of the Colombo Lodge. So when the consulate general from Italy came, she just got everyone's passports. I don't know if it was legal or not, but she got it. And I remember when I was like 12 or 13, we got it. And I was thinking like, no, why would, I don't want to be Italian. Like, what's going on? I'm Canadian, right? Well, lo and behold, it was just a blessing. It was such a great thing to have, and the reason why I made that decision is because I saw the writing on the wall. I guess I was humble enough to see that I wasn't going to fit in the American League. I didn't get drafted. And there was just another path for me. And I thought that, going over to Europe was another experience. And then obviously the money was just way better at that time too, so that made a big decision.
You made that move in the same year, I believe, as Finner dipped his toe into the Italian hockey scene.
Yeah,
it seemed to be quite a few Canadians at that point taking the step over to Italy. Why was that? Do you think was it purely the money?
I don't think it was purely the money. I just think it was quite a rat race. I mean, back home, I'd been there for, I think in 1 year, I was waived, traded, sent down, called up, all in 1 year, and I wore like number 2 to 10 all in. The first 4 months of the season. It was crazy. So I was just like, I don't want to do this. I just want to settle down, play somewhere, and be comfortable.
Ryan, have you got any thoughts? I mean, you're only there briefly, but what was your thinking about moving across to Italy?
I remember when I came out of South Carolina. It was my last year, I think, in the coast, and I just wanted to go to Europe. I didn't really care where, which was a big mistake. And then with the money, it was just like looking for. I wasn't really sure what the future was going to be in Europe hockey, because I didn't really play a European style. And then I did enjoy my time in Italy, but I wasn't in a good spot either.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe if I'd gone to a better area, better part of a better league, So I kind of was trying to get out probably from like a month after I signed there, but they have your rights, and then and then that's when I ended up going to Sheffield. I think at Christmas time. I left, and then I've been here ever since.
Johnny, would you say that decision to move across to Italy probably made your hockey career?
I would say, yeah. I mean, just because of the having the ability to play in world championships was just a real highlight of my career for sure. I got to play in 7 of them, and 3 of those were in the top division. So I mean, you're playing against the best in the world, and that really changed for me. It gave me some gratitude in my career. It was weird. It made me figure that I was probably in the right spot.
Did you feel like your game perhaps suited that European style as well?
It did, yeah, for sure it did. I mean, it was just open ice, and just being more offensive as a defenseman and smaller. I think it was just easier for me to adjust to that, and it was less games too. I mean, growing up in the Western League, I played 5 years in the Western League. I mean, that's a grind. That is a long 5 years, and it takes a toll on your body at a really young age. And it was really nice for me to be in Europe for that long.
You mentioned your time with the Italian national team there. Say, if I hope I've counted up right. I believe you made 100 appearances for the Italian national team. Is that right?
I don't know. I guess so. I didn't even know that. I don't even know that. One thing Italy's not really good for is having those numbers and milestones. They don't really. I don't even know. I don't even think they know. But they. I think it must be 100. Yeah, that's a pretty cool stat.
That's a huge number of international games played. Was it
Johnny? I'm trying to look. Did you play with a guy named Ryan Watson?
Yes. Yeah.
Like in the Olympic team?
Waddy was. I can't remember if he made the. I don't think he made the team.
He was an 81. I know he played 1 year.
Did he play 1 year?
Played 1 year. I just can't. I was trying to scroll for it.
No, he did make the team. Yeah, you're right. I can't remember what year it was, but yeah, I remember Waddy. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was one of my best friends growing up from back home.
Yeah, he's Lethbridge guy.
Yeah.
Really nice guy. I remember Waddy. Yeah. He was another Canadian Italian.
Yeah.
Was it always your intention when you made that move over to Italy to break into the national side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was more money because you got a little bit of a bonus to go, and then obviously we lost out in 2 Olympic qualifiers, like final games both times. One was in Latvia to go to the Winter Olympics in Vancouver, which was an absolute heartbreaker for me because I was, in my home province. That would have been unreal. But Latvia was just a little bit better than us. They just beat us. And then the second one was in Bietigheim, and we ended up beating Germany, and we lost to Austria. And Austria ended up going, which was a huge upset for Germany. But it just goes to show you how close international hockey is. It's crazy to me. It's crazy how close the game really is at that level.
The one thing that Italy had never been, well, in recent history shy of is taking on eligible imports. I think that's the best way I can perhaps explain it. And it's something that perhaps GB didn't do for a little bit, but they've started to do that now a little bit more. The likes of the Earhart brothers, Connolly, Joey Martin. I can reel off the name. Do you think that's a good thing, or is it difficult to get the right balance?
It's a tough balance. It really is. And Italy, they had a long history of doing it. But it was really clear. I mean, they made the number only 8 or 9, and you had to be substantially better than the Italian to make the team. And it was communicated to us that way as well. I remember my first year, they said, hey, just because you're, coming from North America, it doesn't mean anything. You need to prove yourself here. And it's rightfully so. I think there has to be a give and take, but there's always going to be that Brit or that Italian that's not going to be happy because you're taking his place, and that's just human nature. But it does make you competitive, and I don't think GB would be where they are without imports, as well as the imports without the GB players, right? So it's a good give and take.
That's the big argument. Is like, would you rather? And you can't say that GB have been bolstered since they've included all these guys, right?
Yeah.
And you're all like Kieran Long's a great example. Like, he misses out. Of course, we felt like he shouldn't have missed out, but it's such a difficult spot to argue, because you can argue that potentially they wouldn't be where they are, and we wouldn't have this, this loving with the GB and all these great games against Canada and US and winning against France. They still might be trying to fight their way out of the B pool, So like, it's a tough one because you get both sides. Especially like a Kieran Long can look at it and go, well, these Canadian Brits took my spot,
Well, and here's a prime example, and I'll just bring this one player up because I think all of you know him, is like a Rob Sirianni, for example. Mm-hmm. Rob Sirianni absolutely destroyed the Italian league. Okay, he was a complete sniper there, and he's just the kind of guy that he's Johnny on the spot. He'll score goals, but he doesn't move well. And when you get him on an international stage, he doesn't really bring a lot to the table. So that he should be there, but at the same time, his game is not really built for that, because he's built for having the puck all the time. And, even myself, like, I was used to having the puck all the time. You play international hockey, you're chasing the whole game. So it's a totally different game. So there was Italians that I couldn't believe how well they performed, like, every single year at the World Championships, but in the league, they wouldn't be that good of players.
Yeah, you see it even in GB. The guys that can skate really excel at those World Championships.
Exactly, and then can stick to the program, right? Like, if you try to, do something on your own or try to, go outside the box, it ain't gonna work. I mean, it never worked for me. So.
And how does that affect your recruitment? Because obviously it has a big impact on you when you could be losing what is classed as an import on your side off to GB. And that, you must have to know what that mentality of the GB management is before you look at guys bringing them in.
As far as players, you're talking about, I mean, especially next year, because we're looking at 3 billion different situations, but one that could come true is that our league may run late, which could then coincide with the World Championships. And now you have a decision. Like, do you, like, say, Critch, Dallas? Do we just lose them to GB? Do we just lose a player for 10 games to GB because our season has to run late, which we easily can do? So there's a lot of that, like, going on. Critch is eligible next season. 2-year British passport holder. So yeah, you're kind of like, how does that work? Hopefully, like, I really hope that the World Championships just move everything back, kind of have a wide look at what's going on, because it won't just be us, but ultimately, like, our club has to come first, right? Like, we have to play our season, and hopefully it can just kind of bounce into the World Championships like it's done. But going into next year, I mean, you just throw everything in the blender right now.
Totally. Johnny, just signing off your time in Italy, say 100th league, 100th appearance for Italy, and sign off winning the Italian Super Cup. I think that's the right name of it.
Coppa Italia.
Yeah. Did you know that was your last year in Italy?
I had a feeling. Yeah, I wanted to explore, and then there was, obviously money issues there, and it was just such a great league for so many reasons, But then Italy more or less had an economic, downturn, and it ended up hurting everyone. And then it just, kind of fizzled out, and I came to England, which was fantastic for me.
And how are the facilities and everything in Italy and as a league to play in?
Good. I mean, look, there was probably 4 or 5 rinks that are really nice, and the other ones weren't so great. I mean, because they're in small ski villages, right? Like they're not. One thing that I think that Italy made a mistake on is putting their league and teams into bigger markets, and they just didn't do that. And I don't know why. It's just for some reason they didn't want to expand the game or didn't have the confidence to do it. But I mean, I always say that if you just take the model that, England has done, they've done such a fantastic job, all the way from marketing the league, all the way from, building the players up on social media. I mean, it was just such a breath of fresh air when I came from Italy to Manchester.
Moving on to the Storm, you joined the Storm in 2016. How did that come about? You said that you were looking to explore around a little bit, but how and why Manchester?
Yeah, so I played with Francois Bouchard in Brunico, and him and Pash were really good buddies. And I was doing some business up in Montreal, and Bouch said, "Hey, come and meet me and Pash. He wants to talk to you about next year." And I didn't really know much about Pash. And then I got the call. After that I got the call from. I think it was Pash. I spoke to Pash first, and then I spoke to Neil after. And then it was a good fit. I mean, I was excited because I wanted to get to a different league, and I just felt that it was a good fit for me in Manchester, not knowing really much about it.
No, Ryan. I mean, how was it? You coached against that second-year Storm. I mean, there was quite a defensive team, but they had a lot of offensive threat on that blue line. The likes of Johnny and Paul Phillips and Connor Varley. Varley had a great year as well in his debut season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at the roster just to kind of get familiar again with it. Yeah, no, they had Trabuco was good. I mean, Prince had a good year. Karchi was good. Biz had a really good year. And then you had Dzinski.
Helped us a lot.
Goals. And then, obviously, at the start of the year, you had Eric, and he was like the Nielsen factor was there. We had toughness as well. I think we had Rose Hill, but it was the eye injury was against us. Becca went to flip the puck in, and was it the puck or the stick?
I think the puck came up under. He was wearing a visor, wasn't he? But it came up underneath.
It was right in front of. Well, I guess it would have been Pash's bench. Yeah,
I think it was one of those real nasty ones where the puck deflected off the shaft of the stick at close range, and just
everybody just stopped.
Yeah.
You're very players can just sense when something bad's happened, and I just remember the whole play just stopped. Everybody just froze like crap.
Yeah, and he was out. I don't know how long he was out, but he was out a long time. Like I don't even think we thought he was going to come back.
He just went right off the ice, and I don't even know if he went down.
No,
it was
probably not. Probably not. Yeah, and that really hurt us. I mean, he was such a huge key for us just on the ice. I mean, even just having him around was fine, but it hurt us. It hurt us big time to have a loss like that. And then we kind of struggled through the year until kind of the end, and we made a little bit of a push. But we did have good D. We had great D. I mean, Daly was obviously that was Dallas' first year in the league. And you could tell that Daly had supreme potential. Like he was big, and
that brings me on to my next point, because you both you and Daly came in at the same year. I mean, You said you could see the potential there. Here he is coming on for his 4 years later. He's now the captain of the club, and he's become a huge offensive threat as well, which perhaps didn't see in that first season.
Well, I saw it, and I actually saw it, and he was really he tried to play like that, and I loved it, but the coaches weren't too crazy about it, because I think they felt that, with Paulie and myself, that that was enough. And Connor Varley was constantly rushing the puck up the ice. So I think it was a little bit too much. And Dally really, I think, didn't get to show his true potential. But I played with Dally for quite a bit, and I was like, this kid is really good. I mean, he had such good patience. And then, obviously the kind of guy that he is, you could tell that he was, going to be a leader. And he's obviously not the loudest leader, but he's a guy that, you instantly respect, and he's a gamer too. Hey, Finner, he's not afraid of anyone.
He broke his hand at the end of the year, and he would have played. I think he would have played that weekend.
Yeah.
He got shut down on Friday, and his hand was still broken. He was coming back with this year. Obviously I got a good relationship with him, and I was just trying to remember when over the last 3 years, I can't even remember where Dally came from, just like a stay-at-home tough defenseman to this offensive, almost 20-goal guy. I don't even know where that happened. I think we put him on the back post of a power play, and he just started scoring, and then it just kind of went from there. He kind of got on the first power play unit, he's got some skill.
I think it has a lot to do with his when he has the puck, his heartbeat when he has the puck. He's just one of those guys that doesn't get excited.
My heartbeat gets a little excited when he has the puck.
Yeah.
His goes down, mine goes up.
He's a cool customer, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, but that's why he's got it. And then Clemmer obviously was just a great goalie. He was a really good goalie for us. He was strong, but we struggled to score. That was really our, we couldn't get it to happen. We'd have small spurts, but our forwards just weren't quite what we needed them to be that year.
No, I mean that second year of the Storm I think it was a very important year for the Storm, perhaps more off the ice than it was on the ice. The first year was probably a bit of a scramble to get things put together. You guys came in, I mean, you're great on the ice, but the likes of Eric coming as well, great ambassadors with the club off the ice and getting some notice as well.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, I'll probably say it to this day, he was probably my favorite teammate to ever play with. These top 5 for sure. He was so much fun to be around, and very humble, not unselfish, and like I said, it was just such a shame when he got that puck in the eye. But he came back, and we had him around all year. So, and I knew that was probably going to be his last year as well. So it was just a fantastic guy to meet, and just to see the way that he played a long time. So played a long time in the American League, and he was just very humble about the way that he went about business.
He played through a lot of pain, eh? He had some pretty bad hip issue,
and I can tell you right now, that guy was basically sewed together at the end. He hurt bad. There was no days where he was really feeling good. You could just tell that he was beat up for sure.
Yeah.
Did you know that season would be your last professional?
I had a feeling. I didn't know though. I wasn't quite sure. Because as you guys know, I think my last 5 years while I was playing, I tried to get business going to where I would have to quit playing hockey. We're at a point now where, you're making decent money, but at the same time, you got to figure out what you want to do. And I never was a guy that wanted to, get back into the game or coaching right away. So I wanted to just kind of do something different. And I think that I knew my last 5 years that I was going to try to get out of hockey. And I was just waiting for that one kind of moment. And I think it was that summer where I just said, yeah, I think that's, and I still never even announced my retirement. I guess, you don't really announce it at this level. You just kind of say you quit, right?
Yeah. We were talking about similar last week.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I just felt it that summer. And I thought, you know what, this is it. I got to make the jump. And hardest really 3 years of my life. I mean, so I guess right now would be 3 years of retirement right now, today. And tell you what, those first 2 years, man, were the hardest of my life. It was horrible. Like, because I retired and I knew what I wanted to do, but you really don't have I have a very entrepreneurial mind, and I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. But, it was a really tough 2 years.
We talk about that all the time, especially with these MBA programs.
Yeah.
And roll them out and how important they are to guys that are moving on, or even so, like in the middle of your career, if you know kind of where your career is at, to get it done and then play another couple of years and network with your MBA in hand.
Yeah.
But man, my ears bleed when I ask players like what the plan is, and they're like, well, I got a buddy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, when you get on the other side, that buddy can't do what he can tell you in the bar. He can tell you,
Mm-hmm.
you always have that friend that wants to do this. He can hook you up with that. But when reality hits, it isn't always there.
Well, no. And I mean, you either got a father that owns a business that you can jump right into. You've either got your MBA, which I never had, and you have a job set up, or you can go back to Alberta and work on,
Can't work anywhere in Alberta right now.
Yeah, but but there was
Let's talk about Trudeau.
You're spitting double.
Yeah, but to truly, do, and I look at it all the time. I look at my playing career, Western Hockey League, right into pro, and then finish, playing pro at a level where you're not making money that, it's going to last for a long time. It might last you that summer. So that's the problem. And to get out of that, track, it was very, very difficult. And even myself, I mean, I networked with everybody. I try to put 2 and 2 with everything that I do. And, I'm really, really proud of what I did while I played, because it really helped me, get ready for after hockey. But even then, I mean, like Finner says, your buddy in the bar is going to tell you something, and it's not going to be the same when it's for real.
Before we come on to what you're doing in life now, was there any thoughts about trying to stay in the game at all?
There was a little bit. I just didn't really see, I guess, the potential from where I was. I mean, there was an option maybe to go and be an assistant coach in the USHL, or start in a lower league. But I didn't really have the desire to do that, and still don't. So again, I love hockey. I love hockey. My son, I'm involved in hockey because obviously my son plays, and I actually sit on the board of the Muskegon Lumberjacks in the USHL. So I sit on an advisory board for them. So I get my fix of hockey when I need to, and that's where I'm at with that.
Well, Clemmer had you down as one of the best networkers he's ever known, and I guess that's coming pretty handy in what you're doing in life nowadays.
Yeah. So actually, when I was done in Manchester, I actually got into luxury travel, and for about a year, I pretty much went and saw everything in the world, and the top hotels and travel shows and you name it. I learned the business, and the guy I was working for, I actually, I kept bringing him all his clients, and I thought to myself, well, I think this is my time to kind of move off and go on my own. And what I did is I found out that, luxury travel is great and travel's great, but there's not a ton of money in it. So creating your own events is something where you can kind of capitalize on. And I think it was the time, and it'll go back to this story. It's kind of weird because when I saw you in the airport in Torino, which is a true story,
Yeah.
and this is a true story, I had a jacket for Bieber. So that that jacket was a leather jacket made from a company in Italy that made the outerwear for Lamborghini. Okay. And that company is called Hetabretz. They made outerwear for Lamborghini, and I kept in contact with Bieber's personal assistant, and it was actually for Bieber's 22nd birthday. And that was what they made him. So we actually designed the jacket for him. I was in Italy at the time, and I didn't just fly there, but I was on my way back to LA, so it worked out. And when I was on my way back to LA, it was to go meet my who my now partner is in Luxury Rally Club. And we put on vintage and supercar rallies for the top car collectors in the world. So we do anything from, you know, the official Bentley rally to the new Ford GT rally. And then I was doing a Lamborghini rally in August, which just got canceled. And it was Lamborghini Countachs. So we take like an anniversary of a car and we work with the OEM to put on private experiences for their actual either clients or people that own these private cars. And that's one thing that I'm doing.
I always think of you when you see these programs on channel, I don't know, 75 or something on TV, and it's these car auctions down in Monterey. I always think of you when I see these things now.
Well, Pebble Beach is the biggest car show in the world, and it was my first time going to it last year. We were Bentley's featured group at Pebble Beach, so we had WO is Bentley's original car that was ever first built, obviously. So this is a 90 to 100-year-old car. And we put on the rally, and these cars are 90 years old to 100 years old, and they're ranging from $1 million to $30 million cars. And we had 30 of them on the road, and we were the featured group at Pebble Beach, which is a full week of the craziest, over the top car show, extravagant luxury experience you could ever imagine. And it was an unbelievable experience. So that kind of put us on the map, I guess. And from there, it's just been everything but up until COVID happened.
How's your new car getting on, Finna? Perfect time to get a new car.
My Volkswagen, yeah. I thought about that today when I paid my payment. Or no, oh, good. No. So where's home then for you now?
So I live in Michigan, and then I pretty much split time between Michigan and LA. So, my kids live in Michigan, and then LA is where the business is. So I do quite a bit of travel. LA is a lot nicer than Michigan for a few reasons, but it's definitely a spot where, a lot of things are happening. And I believe that, you got to be in the mix to make sure that, especially in that business that I'm in, we more or less.
LA, or are you on the outskirts of LA?
I'm in near Hermosa Beach.
Okay.
So it's about 40 minutes outside of Beverly Hills, for example, or downtown LA.
You mentioned, our chance encounter in Torino Airport that time, and your association with Justin Bieber. I mean, you're a big one of the big guys behind getting him down to the rink. Am I right in saying that? On that first occasion? Yeah.
So actually, from what happened in Manchester, and that was all started with a tweet from a friend, that Jason Jaffrey, who played in Munich in the DEL, messaged me that time when I was in Manchester. And I think what a lot of people forget about that story is Bieber canceled on us like 4 times in a row. And Kip, who was our trainer at the time, he was pissed. Like he was like, that's it, I'm done. Like I'm not, and I remember the morning of when Santi, who is his personal assistant, said, hey, are you guys ready to go tonight? If he wants to be on the ice. And I was thinking, yeah, we got it. Right. Meanwhile, I didn't have anything ready. So 8:00 at night, I get a text message saying, we're 30 minutes out, and the convoy, which would be Bieber and his bodyguards, are 45 minutes out. And I remember Clemmer was in bed, and Clemmer really saved my ass there, because I remember getting him out of bed, and he was kind of like, I don't really want to go to the ring, Johnny. This guy's not going to show up. And we had a WhatsApp group for the team. And I remember telling the guys on the WhatsApp saying, hey, like, guys, please come to the rink. Like, he's going to show up this time. And guys were sending, the Pinocchio nose and beat it, Johnny. Like, it ain't happening, right? So from that night on, which was an incredible night in Manchester that we had, I think it was all about trust for them. And we just developed a really good relationship. And to now where, I'm doing several things for them, whether it's booking travel or actually, he has a concert tour coming up in the US that I was taking part in booking actually some of his luxury homes throughout the whole tour. So a lot of good things came out of that for sure. And we've developed a relationship. And yeah, I do anywhere he is that they need help with hockey, which he's taken a big liking to and loves it. I'm always there to help him out for that.
Before we move on to, we've got a load of questions here for you from the fans. Trevor, if you wouldn't mind going through it. But perhaps let's just touch on the Puckade and the international series that you've been involved in the last couple of years. And so that's possibly
yeah. Yeah, so I was the first one we put on was in Milton Keynes, and it went really well. And then Kerry Goulet, I think Kevin Noble got a hold of us and wanted to do something a little bit bigger, and that was the Super Series. So we just joined Puckade and the Super Series together, and put that on in Sheffield. And I thought that was a great event. I thought that was awesome. But I think just to, it should happen every year. I thought Puckade was great, and I think Manchester would be a great spot for it. So, when we could possibly do it again, Finner, if you would maybe help us out on that, that would be fantastic. I think to do something.
You want me to go in goal, Johnny? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were in goal that time. That's right.
I played the second period. We had to pull Smith out of there. He was killing us.
Yeah. No, so it was a lot of fun, and I think it gives the fans a good time to maybe get experience some of the the ex-players, the former players, and then maybe some of the new players if they're around. And I think why not? I think it brings people together. We can raise some money for a good cause, and they were both really successful, for sure. And Jess Patton helped me out with both of those, so she's I want to give her a shout out on that. She did a lot.
I think Manchester would do. I think you'd do well in Manchester.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's the right size arena. I mean, I think it would just be a great experience because people get behind it. So
yeah, no, I think if you do it, definitely, I think Manchester would be a good spot.
I was unable to attend just through work purposes, but through what I could see, it was a great blend of high-profile names that perhaps have recently retired from the game, and the names that you can recognise from the Elite League as well. So it was a real good mix.
Yeah, it was a really good. I mean, that one in Sheffield was really good. I mean, you had some, I guess current NHL players there, and then a couple of hacks like myself and Eric Nielsen.
How come you were in the US jersey when I seen the picture?
I don't know. That was just a numbers issue. So I think it went by resume, and I got pushed off to the US. I was actually excited to play for Canada.
I got actually a question that's linked with that. Russ Herring, he sends his regards to you, Johnny. He was just asking, where's his stick? Is there a backstory to that? I believe you maybe promised him a stick that exploded.
Probably did, yep. And at that time, when you're not playing pro, you don't have any sticks anymore. So no. If I could ever get him a stick, I would. I don't have any left.
No. How did you say you went to that? You were in goal, hey, Brian? How did that work out for you?
we were getting beat, so we pulled our goalie, and then I went in.
And what was the score after that?
Oh man, I stood on my head. And the only time I got scared is when I'm like, oh, if Nickerson sees it's me, because we had so many battles. He was there, but then yeah, I think he actually did take a slap shot, saved it, of course. But I was trying to keep, because GB were playing on TV, so I was trying to keep my eye on that game as well as what was in front of me. Because I think it was like, well, it would have been, yeah, they were on TV and I could see it in the MK bar. So, but I had to lean back over my net to see it, to see the game, and then I had to focus on, of course, my shutout.
Yeah, that's right. That's when GB made the big run. That was a big deal.
Yeah, I think it was when they had to win that game or something. So I was trying to keep my eye on both.
That was a big deal.
That was a fun event. It was a fun night. Definitely. I think you guys should do it again.
And as you mentioned now, I think it would be brilliant in Manchester. I really do. I mean, the rink's very intimate. You'd be able to see the players. And, you've got that surrounding area in Altrincham. You've got plenty of bars and areas to have a few events on as well.
Yeah. Social distancing.
Yeah, when we're back to normal. Storm Fanatic is asking, how did the Elite League and the Italian leagues compare, possibly standard? We spoke about the facilities, but the standard of hockey?
Good question. When I first got there, I think that we had some really high-end imports in Italy. I thought the goalies were really good in Italy as well. They always seem to get really good goaltending there. But top to bottom, the Elite League is like light years ahead of whatever it was there. I thought the Elite League, the year that I played at least, was, top to bottom, they were deep. and you get obviously more imports, and it was just a different style of play. But I mean, Italy, it was always a really good league. The money was probably the reason why it was a little bit different for goalies and maybe some higher end guys to go there. But in the end, I think it's just a lot easier to come to the UK, and I think the league is better in the UK.
I mean, am I right in saying they kind of like have the Alps League now? Am I right in saying that? So
yeah, I think they joined with Slovenia and Austria, and they have kind of like a second league mix mash thing. It works out, but Italy does not. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. They do have a Serie A that they have now, but it's not the same. Not the same.
Chris Aldred, he's asking, how much sleep did you get before you went fishing with him? I'm guessing there's another backstory to this one.
Yeah, it's a good story. So Paulie Phillips loves fly fishing, and we talked about it, and he said, hey, actually there's Chris is he's an avid fly fisherman. He's sponsored by G Loomis, and I was like, I'm in, I want to go. Well, Paulie didn't really tell me. I can't remember. I think he told me after a Saturday night win with a Sunday off.
We all know how that goes.
I was out all night. And I remember Paulie messaging me in the morning, like around 8 o'clock, because I was supposed to pick him up. And I didn't want to pick him up, but I manned up, got in the car, picked up Paulie, and we went a long ways out. And we did this fly fishing with Chris. And I mean, he decked us out. I had all this stuff ready to go. And you're standing in a cold creek for freaking 4 hours, and I was probably still drunk at the first part, so it was fine. But then once it hit me, it was horrible. That ride home was not good. Yeah, I had to pull over. Little bit embarrassing.
You a big fly fisherman, Ryan?
No.
No. I could just see your patience with that.
I want to thank him for that, because that was actually a really great experience. From whatever I remembered of it.
I don't know if you guys have caught it. I've been watching on Netflix this Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. I've really, really enjoyed it. But it got me thinking, they concentrate on Michael Jordan, but then they start to look at the likes of Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman. I was just wondering, who's the best underrated player that you guys ever played with that perhaps made the team and made the superstar look good? Go on, Finner.
Don't everybody talk at once.
No.
By the way, that series is fantastic. I've watched it all, and that's just an unbelievable look. Like, those are characters that we won't get to see anymore, which really suck.
No, I was watching it the other day, and I sent a text to Ryan as I was watching it, and it was just the Detroit Pistons popped up, and I was just like, that was the Storm team from like a couple of years ago.
Well, I'll tell you who the most underrated player of the year that I played for the Storm was. I'll just go on that, and I'm probably going to have to say, Dallas Earhart in that year, because he did a lot of things that, he went about himself quietly and did a lot of things that we needed, and didn't get a ton of recognition that year. So I'm going to have to say Dally.
I still think he flies under the radar a little bit at times for Manchester Storm as well. Ryan?
Yeah, like if we just state it so it's relatable to our fans, I think last year, kind of like a Scotty Simmons would be like a kind of guy, maybe not, on the point sheet, but just that guy that probably like a lot of our fans, like I don't ever see like my favorite player, Scott Simmons, but he was one of the, as a forward, everybody kind of wanted to play with him, but yet you'd have to really watch his game to appreciate him.
Yeah.
He was like that. But going back to that documentary, how crazy is social media now? Like, could you imagine Rodman or anybody the Rodman, the most recognizable human in the world, just roaming around Vegas mid-season now and not getting detected, not getting picked up by every news outlet, like just flying around, taking a 48-hour time out.
Well, my favorite part of the whole thing is just, Jordan and Phil Jackson, like letting him go to Vegas. And I don't, have you guys watched that part? I hope.
Yeah.
Just watched that.
Yeah. Rodman says, I need a break, coach. Like, Finner, what would you do if a player says, hey, Finner, you know what? I just need to go to London for a couple of days. Let me just go blow some steam off I
growing up, you watch the Bulls. They were kind of our era, right? Like Jordan was like, they were the studs, man. And Phil Jackson, you always thought was this intimidating, big, over. And then you see him, and he's like the most laid back, placid, pretty cool character. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess in the context, if you got your superstar that you know you got to give a little rope to, and your captain and your Sidney Crosby comes in and goes, hey, like, what do you think? Yeah. But Jordan was kind of like, I want a break. What do you like? Or what do you say? He's like, we ain't seen him in 40 years.
No, the thing that
we'll get him.
Yeah, the thing that I got from that as well was the obviously you guys probably followed a little bit more. We've been in North American sports and stuff, but that trade to bring in Rodman for the Bulls, you know, that was a high risk move, but it made the franchise.
Yeah.
And
like all the issues they went through to win, like Pippen holding out, Rodman, Jordan was the only constant. They hated that little GM. I mean, everybody, you just look at him and you hate him.
No, I strongly recommend people having a watch of that. But you know what's crazy to me, guys, is the podcast game and this whole what we're doing now and how people are just loving it, you know, and just normal conversations that we had. And kind of, I don't know if you're the same way, but a Western League kid, we didn't really talk about much. You know, you kind of kept everything to your chest, and it wasn't cool to talk about, you know, everything that went on, or you know, you weren't really allowed to be your own person, and that kind of sucks, I guess. You know, looking back on it now, you just weren't allowed to be your own person. You know, because
especially
you see a lot of it. Yeah.
You get into coaching, everybody sees you in that 2.5 hours a game. You don't smile, and you're like, "Yeah, that guy's the biggest a-hole." Or and then you go home, and you're like, I could not imagine if you guys, all my buddies, were able to like tell stories of like what we did and who we are. Is like they would just wouldn't understand it, or like.
Well, and it's just like you see hockey players, pretty humble kids, you know, and then if you ever had just a camera in the dressing room that was just a fly on the wall, I mean, you would see totally different personalities. Yeah. And I think that's what the good part is. It's coming out obviously in a classy way. And I think that's what the sport's missing a little bit, is just kind of having those characters, because you're not allowed to show truly who you are.
Especially hockey, because we all kind of toe that line. Very few want to be the limelight. They don't want to be the showman. They just want to be a good team guy. And usually that just means being just vanilla. Like we just, you know, we don't rock the boat. We're good teammates. And especially when the eyes are on you and the cameras are on you. That's why that Spit and Chicklets is so good.
Yeah.
They're giving guys, you know, they're kind of allowing fans to see like these superstars come on there and just talk about drinking a beer with my old man, like Voracek, like the last one he did. And guys are like, he's drinking, his old man told him to have a couple of beers when he's like 12 to go to bed.
Well, I mean, and I played so many characters that it just, you know, you just love for people to know actually who they are. And they're really good people in hockey. I mean, a lot of really great guys that people just don't really get to see, because we're just allowed. There's no platform. There's no platform to do it.
In the UK with the Twitter world, like the UK, people come here and they're like, I thought Twitter was bad in wherever, like the Czech or here or there. The UK is like on steroids. I mean,
massive,
like your fans love you, and then there's 9 other teams, man, and they think you are the worst human in the world. Like, you know, and it's like it does get to guys. Like I always tell guys, like if you're on Twitter and it's open or not protected, like they're gonna come after you here. And you got to be able to either handle it or get off of it, because you know, and it sucks that it's like that, because sometimes some guys just can't get off of it, and then they get overwhelmed with it. I mean, I've seen that side of players too, and you're like, just stop, just get off of it. I mean, some older guys too, you never expect to be actually fazed by it. But yeah, no, it is true. I think these podcasts are great, and you get catch up with guys and talk about. I mean, we're keeping it pretty PG because you know you have to, but there's just so many funny stories that you want to tell, and you just can't.
No,
we'll have to do one perhaps after 8 o'clock one evening.
We'll do one with a code on it.
Yeah. Your former bus driver, Greggy, was in contact Johnny, he was asking, how did Eric get glitter in his beard? Again, I'm suspect there's another backstory to this one. I expect there's probably a lot of stories on that bus.
So we, I don't know.
Speaking of which, shall we bring in the big man himself?
We might as well bring him in.
Yeah.
If he's there. I don't know if he's there. Can you bring him in?
Yeah, he just popped up. Unless it's Ric Flair.
There he is.
There he is.
Timing.
You figure it out.
Yeah. Eric, how are you?
Hey, how are you, mate? Good day. How are you, mate? Manchester, how are you? Look at Happy Hippo. Look at him. I can't see you guys. I can't figure this out on the East Coast. We still use dial-up computers and the fax machine, so